Okay, all right. Good morning. Happy Thursday. While everybody is jumping on, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on attendance real quick. You guys go ahead and get situated. Make sure you got your stuff out and be ready to roll. Happy Thursday. All right, like I said, as you are jumping on, I'm gonna go ahead and take just a second to do attendance. And then we're gonna make some magic happen today.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. All right, I just about got everybody. Give me one more second. All right, let me double check to make sure that I did not miss anybody. All right, I do want to ask a favor, all right? Just because I kind of caught on, there's a few people that when we end the meeting, they're still hanging on, and I'm hoping that you're still there just because you don't even want to say goodbye. You've enjoyed it that much, and not because your Zoom is up and you're doing something else. So I do want you to do me a favor, whether you do it at the beginning or the end, I don't really care. But you're going to flip your video on for a second to at least prove that you're there and it's not just, you know, that you just haven't thrown your Zoom up and you're ghosting me the whole entire time. See, there you go. It's a quick and painless procedure, I promise. Yeah, so just acknowledge that you're there. All right, give me 5 seconds. Oh. See, how nice is that?
I'll keep mine on the whole time.
I can actually see your lovely faces, all right? Because I am telling you guys, it was really super creepy last semester when everybody was putting just their name up and no video. And then when they came in person, it was weird because they knew me because they knew what I looked like, but I had no clue what they looked like. And it was, I don't know, it was just weird.
Yeah, I think that's weird too.
And you know, I told you that I had a few people that like catfished me. I think that's what it's called. That they didn't like do a video, but they put like a picture up, and I just assumed that they were putting a picture up of themselves, right? Like, isn't that what you would assume? But no, it was like of a totally different person. And when they walked in, I was like, okay, and
I can't. That's funny.
oh, it was weird. It was really weird. And apparently somebody was like really fascinated with Mr. Grindstaff from the middle school and had him as their profile picture. And I thought that was interesting. Like maybe it was like supposed to be a form of flattery. Like, you know, they were just a super big fan of his. You know, I don't know. I don't know.
We love him.
So anyway, I'm figuring it all out. All right. It's taken me almost 2 weeks to figure out. And I do have to apologize because there's a few people on here that I thought have just not been participating. And it's because I was looking at the wrong name. So I apologize for that, you know, because you know, on first days, we go down the list and we're like, okay, I have you down as Joe. Is that what you go by? And you'll be like either yes or no, right? And sometimes when you say no, you're like, no, I go by AJ. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. I'm glad I know that, you know, but that's not necessarily how it is online, right? So anyway, I'm figuring it out, right? All right, super quick and fast. Couple of announcements, reminders, all the things. So, you should, if you get the alerts, like I have everything to where it pops up on my phone. So that's how I get most of my alerts. That way I can multitask on the computer and check an email at the same time. So if you get PowerSchool, or if you get the Google Classroom alerts, you should have realized that I was throwing down some grades yesterday because I'm trying very hard to get caught up on everything. And I do want to say this. All right, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to be mean. Like if somebody's missing something, all right, and it's not that you're not going to make it up. Like I trust you guys to know that you're going to make it up, but I might throw in a 0 just for me so that it pops up on my screen and I know that you're missing something. That doesn't mean you're keeping that 0. That just reminds me that you've got to go back in and get something made up. Okay. So again, I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm doing it more for me. And sometimes to get your attention so that you know that you've got to go and make something up. Okay. So again, like I said, just trying to get caught up on everything because wow, tomorrow is the 2-week point. We've only got one more week before progress reports. It's crazy. So it is what it is. All right. What else? No Zoom on Monday, no school on Monday. It is a holiday. Make sure that you are checking emails, Google Classroom comments, PowerSchool, especially for grade updates. And if you're coming in person and there's anything that you would rather make up in person or have paper copies of, all right, that's definitely something that we can take care of next week in person. Bell ringers, that is I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that I've got to get caught up on, all right? And bell ringers are like a daily participation grade as well as a daily check-in, all right? And bell ringers act in 2 ways, okay? Bell ringers are a way for me to assess if you understand the stuff that we're covering, because I can tell pretty quickly when I read your response to a bell ringer if you understand what we're talking about, if you're just guessing, or if you have no clue what's going on, you're just throwing in an answer. All right. So bell ringers help me out to let me know what you guys are learning, right? And it also helps if if somebody isn't in the Zoom for whatever reason, all right, whatever reason, it's a way for me to make sure that they're participating as well. Here's another big thing, okay? I don't think it was as big a deal last week with your unit quiz on the Wild West, but it's going to be a bigger deal this coming assessment. You're getting ready to have your very first unit test, but it also is getting ready to be your very first combo unit test, right? And I told you there is a reason for the madness, all right? There's a reason for everything that I do in this class, all right? But I told you last week at the beginning of the semester that this class does have a midterm, all right, which means you cannot forget anything that we're learning right now, all right? So after we finish the Wild West, I really hope you guys didn't hit the delete button because you got to keep up with all that info for the midterm, and fingers crossed, you don't have to take my final exam. Like, I think it's fun, right? Like, I'll do my final exam just for the fun of it because I love history trivia. If that's you, if that is you, all right, then you need to do the final exam because it's just 100-question multiple choice of fun. That's what I say, of fun, right? So anyway, but again, you can't hit the delete button on anything. So make sure that as we're going, you're keeping up with it for your combo test on Wild West and cities. All right. Now, I was being really kind. I thought I was anyway, in picking and choosing the questions that I asked last week. Now, if you noticed, some of the questions that I told you to prepare for were not on there. They are going to be on this unit test. And I had decided to try and ease you guys into it on that first quiz. That's why I went back and kind of took out some of the questions that I would have normally had in there to kind of get your toes wet before I really throw you into one of my assessments. I don't mean for that to be an evil laugh, but it's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be fun. All right. Now, questions, comments, concerns. If not, we got stuff to knock out today and get done. So far, so good, right? Maybe.
Yes, ma'am.
I think some people's eyes have already just like glazed on me. Okay. All right. Love you too. All right. Let's do it. So, all right. So I told you today we got to push because there are 4 sections in chapter 12 instead of just 3. And we're not Zooming tomorrow. So we're squeezing everything that we can in today. So that tomorrow can be an easy half-day Friday, right? You get in and do your bell ringer, you submit your IDs and SQs. If you don't do it today, like I would suggest after we finish, going ahead and submitting it. That way you don't forget. But that's it, quick and easy Friday, right? And then, whoop, whoop, right? 3-day weekend. Who's not excited about that? All right, let's do it. Section 3 and 4 in chapter 12, starting with your IDs like we always do. All right, I like routine. I like knowing what's coming. So that's where we're going to first. All right, so we are squeezing in 3 and 4. The good news is there's not a lot of questions, but there are a ton of definitions. And you might end up having to do some of these definitions on your own just because I don't know time-wise we're going to have enough time to do them all together, which you can handle doing some definitions. I have faith. All right, looking at section 3, there's only 2 questions that talk about big business. And let's do it. We're looking at question 17 on your ID and SQ sheets. It says, why did the number of corporations increase in the late 1800s? All right, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit already. 2 answers. All right, unlimited labor force and tons of natural resources. All right. I mean, we're killing it. We got tons of people coming into the United States. So unlimited labor force and tons of natural resources that our factories can just get going and just boom. All right. So those 2 things, resources and labor force. All right. 18 says what techniques were used to consolidate industries. And then part 2 of that says, how did the state governments respond? Okay. All right. So it is a 2-part question. All right. First answer is merging and forming trust. These big companies are going to become superpowers by merging and forming a trust with other big businesses. So merging and forming a trust. And then part 2 to that, how did state governments respond? They try and fight back. I'll explain what I mean by that, okay? But they try and fight back. All right, so these big businesses, we said the other day, government is going to be on, and when I say government, I mean more federal government, is going to be on the side of big business because, again, they're making that money. They're bringing in that money. And during a very corrupt period of history, they're okay with, just letting them do whatever and make that money. Well, state governments are trying to fight for we, the people, right? The citizens, the average Joe, and they are trying to get the federal government to limit and put restrictions on these big businesses. All right, because remember, and again, this is for your unit test next week, there's no set minimum wage right now. They can pay you whatever they want. What did we say? There's no child labor laws, right? What age did we say the other day? You see this, what's the youngest age?
5.
Yeah, 5 and up. All right. No child labor laws right now. No minimum wage. No sick leave. No benefits. No workers' compensation. If I walk in and the machine cuts my hand off, all right. Number 1, I'm not going to get any kind of a financial assistance for that. And number 2, I don't have health care. And number 3, I'm probably going to get fired because they need somebody with 2 good hands. I mean, it's a terrible situation. All right. Okay. So you do have several, like I said, terms to define in this particular section. well, for 3 and 4. We're going to talk about just a couple of them, do the questions in section 4, and I just need you to go back and finish those definitions. Now, I am banking on two things. I am banking on some of these terms looking somewhat familiar because they're repeats. These are things you should have talked about in civics. These are things that you might have hit on in American 1. I'm almost positive, but I don't want to say like 100%. But at some point in time, you have seen these terms before. There's only a few that I want to talk about specifically, all right? Number 20 that says pool, all right? Don't get confused. I don't mean swimming, all right? When I say pool, here's what you can put for a definition: bringing together resources. And that is a very shortened definition, all right? Bringing together resources. Okay, so if a company is not doing well, they might, quote, pool their resources, and you might have several owners give money and invest money to keep their company afloat, okay? Let's see, Carnegie, all right, he's going to be a test question. Monopoly on steel. You need to know that. Carnegie has a monopoly on steel. All right, vertical integration. Oh, that's a tough one to make into a short definition for sure. All right, so vertical integration is combining, how about we say this? Combining all needed supplies. That's probably not the best definition, but it's a short and quick one, okay? All right, so vertical integration, for example, with Carnegie, all right, meaning that he owns the iron mines, he owns the transportation wagons, he owns the factory that is manufacturing the steel, he owns all pieces in that puzzle to where he's not sending out checks to other companies. He's making all the money, okay? Here's how it could be different. Your next one, what number is that? Number 23 on horizontal integration means that you control all the supply with that particular product. And I know that sounds very similar to a monopoly, but I'll explain how it's different. So horizontal integration, you own all of the supply in that particular area, product, etc. Okay. Here's how I mean by that. Rockefeller. Rockefeller is going to have a monopoly on oil. All right. So horizontal integration means that he has gone and bought up all the mom and pop oil refineries, but he's going to have to pay out money to have it transferred to the stores. He's going to have to pay out money to rent the train cars to ship his product. He's going to have to pay out money to the delivery guys that make home deliveries. All right. So he's not keeping all of the money he's making like Carnegie would. All right. He's having to pay out because he needs help getting the rest of his company product out there. All right. Let's see. And again, monopoly, specifically controlling all of something. All right, controlling all of something. Whether you control, again, for Rockefeller, you control all of the oil supply. Rockefeller controls 90%, so not quite all, but he controls enough of it to where he can do whatever he wants with the price, supply, quality. And he actually was taken to court because he was watering down his oil that he was selling. It was a crappy product that he was selling at an outrageous price. He was price gouging. There you go. And he got taken to court for it. Didn't really matter to him, all right, because he's a billionaire, and that was just like giving away pennies after he lost the case. He didn't really care. But anyway. All right, we're going to have to go ahead to section 4, so you'll need to pick up the terms that we had to skip. All right, section 4 has got 4 questions. 28 says, what factors led to the increase of unions in the late 1800s? Fighting for workers' rights. Fighting for workers' rights. And we just talked about all those problems, right? Low pay, no child labor laws, no workers' compensation. We talked about all those problems. 29 says, what group of workers was represented by the Knights of Labor? Knights of Labor is the very first labor union. And here's your answer. All workers. They accepted all workers. Didn't matter if you were in a factory. Didn't matter if you worked on the railroad. It didn't matter. They represented all workers. And they are going to see a problem with that. Now, I will say that they did exclude women. All right. They did exclude women, and women are going to be excluded in a lot of different ways, but that's a topic for another day, not today. 30 says, how did employers and unions treat women differently? I actually just gave that to you. They don't help women. Women have lower pay, no support. Just give me a couple. Give me a couple. Lower pay, no support, limited jobs. And I'm going to be extremely honest with you. This is the dead truth, ladies and gentlemen, that if a man applied for a job and a woman applied for a job, the man's going to get the job first because they are assuming, and again, I say assuming because they're not asking. They're assuming that the guy has a family at home that he has to take care of. Are they asking to find out that he's a single guy with no kids? No, they're not asking that. Did they ask the woman why she needs the job? No. Did they ask and find out that she is a widow with 5 kids at home she's trying to take care of? No, they didn't ask that because they don't care. They're going to give the job to a man over a woman every time. And they're going to pay the woman less. All right. Okay. Last question says 31, why did industrial unions frequently fail? And I've actually already given you the answer to this, but government is going to favor big business every time. For right now, anyway. Government is going to favor big business. So they're not listening to the labor unions. All right. Labor unions are not helping bring in any money. Not going to listen to them. Okay. So again, on your list of IDs, theoretically, a lot of these you should have talked about, especially in civics, maybe a little bit in American One, not much. I don't really know that we have time to talk about many of these. We'll talk about just a couple. Let's see, let's do a blacklist. Blacklist, here's what you can put. List of troublesome workers. Yeah, list of troublesome workers. And that is, that's illegal today. Companies can't blacklist. But you know what? And it's not called this, but colleges sort of blacklist. And here's what I mean by that. So if you get kicked out of college because you were plagiarizing or cheating, they will put that on your transcript and make sure that other colleges know that's why you got kicked out. All right. So, you know, it's not called blacklisting, but that's kind of what's happening. Because blacklisting is if a company fires you and they call up all the surrounding companies and make sure that they don't hire you because you were rioting or boycotting, or, you know, they fired you for whatever reason. They will make sure that you cannot get another job in that town. All right. That's illegal today. They can't do that. All right. But they could do it back in the day. A lockout, that's easy. Company locks the doors. Company locks the doors. And here's what would happen. Well, if you're locked out, that means you're not working that day. And if you're not working that day, you're not going to get a paycheck. And of course, if you don't get a paycheck, you can't pay your bills and all the things, right? Well, here's another thing. Companies would not only lock out workers they know were going to cause problems, but they would also hire replacement workers. They called them scabs. They would hire replacement workers and bring them in through a back door, and they would keep doing business as usual. All right. I mean, they were sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Okay. We're going to do one more together because this is a big one and you'll see it on your unit test for sure. And it's 38, which is an injunction. That is a court order. Write that down. Court order. So an injunction is a court order, meaning if workers start to boycott or to riot, they will have a judge sign a paper. And when I say they, I mean the business. The business will have a local judge sign a paper telling these workers, if you don't stop and go back to work, we're going to throw your butt in jail. Like, that's how much power these big businesses had. So yeah, you better shut your mouth about only making 3 cents an hour, because if you try and do something about it, we can just get you fired or thrown in jail. How about that? You know, it's bad. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do need you to finish those definitions because we got to move on. We haven't even hit the few things on the packet that I wanted to talk about. Before we move on, okay, yeah, no problem. If you need me once we finish, just remember to stay on here. Does anybody need anything repeated before I go over a few things on the packet? So far, so good. Okay. All right, so again, my apologies. I couldn't figure out yesterday how to fix the pages that went sideways, and I was afraid to pull it down and put it back up because I didn't want to mess up somebody's that was not copied, or I don't know. I'm not tech savvy, and I was afraid to mess somebody up. So again, my apologies on the sideways pages. So there is no 12-4 in the packet. So what we're doing is 12-3, the guided reading, 12-3. We're only hitting a couple of them. And then we're going to talk about one more thing before we stop. Here is one thing that I noticed when I was grading yesterday. We together will do 70% of the packet together. All right. I will always leave you pages to practice and do on your own. All right. And I need you to do those on your own. There were several people when I was grading yesterday that had not done the individual pages and therefore lost a lot of points because of that. Okay. So make sure if I leave you a couple of things, what I'm going to leave you to finish up in the packet is a practice quiz and a timeline activity. And both of those things shouldn't take you but a couple of minutes. Okay. Those are practice things to do on your own. All right. It's not going to hurt you. You can do it. I promise. All right. So we're going to really quickly answer just a couple of questions on 12-3 and then talk about your Let's Talk story, because I think it's super fascinating. And because you guys are physically attached to your phones 99.99% of the time, I think you'll find this story very interesting. All right, I'm going to tell you the ones we're skipping. So again, let's knock it out and move on. Section 1 says big business. A, why did the number of American corporations begin to increase in the 1830s? Lack of laws and restrictions. That's your answer. Lack of laws and restrictions. So these companies just started booming because they could pretty much do whatever, whenever, and make a killing. Okay, all right, B, how are corporations able to achieve economies of scale? And that's kind of talking about like your Sam's Club, your super Walmart. How have companies been able to become these economies of scale, like these mass producing corporations? And a lot of it has to do with two things. All right. And I know it seems like we're repeating a lot of information. All right. And we sort of are. But it's because of labor force and supplies. labor force and supplies. We've got a lot. That's why so many companies, or not companies, but so many countries are coming to us for natural resources, because we have it in abundance. So supplies, again, we have 17 million people that come in the United States in a 30-year time span. All right, we got plenty of workers. We're putting them to work, right? All right. Skip into section 2. We're going to do a couple questions in section 2, and then we got to move on. Let's see. Let's do. Oh, okay. Let's do C in section 2. What are the benefits of having a vertically integrated company? Oh no. What happened?